Continue taking part in the trial. Let's go. Nail-biting trial reconvenes.
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial.
I gotta say though, the first point of the Hydro Archon about them being Fatui, that's not relevant.
When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
Ugh, that took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective.
Based on the opposition's account of the events, you can identify loopholes in their statement. That's quick. Use evidence and clues obtained during the investigation to refute any erroneous assertions of fact and replace them with new inferences. Use your refutations to convince the audience and obtain more support from the people. The oratories will display such shifts clearly. When you find and refute all incorrect content, you can complete the cycle of refutation and unveil the truth. Oh shit!
As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red-handed. So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident. And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
No.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
Of course.
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Linney experienced, and what he saw.
Okay, so how does this work? So this is like the same format even as the thingy I played in the quest I played in Ragnarok mobile, Eternal Love. Your voice.
According to Linney, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey.
Kidnap Halsey. Hey, what? Using the vase and remove it closed.
Linney went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. this is the actual truth.
Knock Powell out. Indicates that Linny returned to the tunnel. The crime had already taken place.
Lenny did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say!
Ace Detective Paimon.
When the countdown started, Linny did indeed go into the tunnel.
Although, as I said earlier, I do appreciate getting more lines from my dude, Aether, or basically the Traveler.
But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent!
It's not completely watertight yet. That's pretty good. This is a good mechanic. Yeah, I enjoyed doing this quest in Ragnarok Eternal Love.
Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
You're welcome.
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
Yes.
That's right!
Moreover, I believe my opposition's reasoning is flawed.
My reasoning?
The onstage equipment was clearly tampered with in a premeditated fashion. However, you say that Cowell bumped into Linny by chance.
If that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Linny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine. They've managed to turn things around. Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims?
Do you happen to remember how you refuted Linny's alibi initially?
Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
Yes. Your claim has now become my weapon. Alright, which evidence that Linny wasn't in the tunnel when the crime took place? Missing person. Wait, what?
Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought?
I'm wrong.
Are you sure we don't need to give this more
Oh wait, there's more. Oh, they're irrelevant.
That's right! Lenny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Lenny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Well played.
Paimon has the best voice for this.
To think you'd use such logic.
Even this thing is existed in Ragnarok. When you like presented evidence that would not be in their favor, they would go like.
Well then, if it wasn't Lenny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
It is not our burden to prove who it is. It is only our burden to disprove your claims that my client is the murderer. Select the gear icons in the interface to check the corresponding case questions. Select answers and fill all the empty gears to verify the correctness of your deduction. If you have made any mistakes, you must make another selection of the remaining options. Fireworks released at the end of the show ignited and burned through. No longer under suspicion, other members of the troupe would have been able to tamper with the props. Lenny gave a detailed account of how the trick was supposed to work. By using a box inside a box. Okay. It also uses stunts to get to the side. Having changed her outfit, Lynette. Okay. The clothes belonging to Halsey, the lady who went missing, were found in the tunnel. The reason for this remains unknown. Select any clue to view. Okay.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Lenny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along?
Wow. I appreciate this. More voice lines.
Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility?
I'm gonna go with this.
The deceased's name is Cowell.
Wow. So I was actually right the first time. It was him. The thing backfired on him.
Huh? That can't be right. Are you serious? The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
I really like that eye. That looks really cool.
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim.
Okay. Now I have to do this. How can we envisage having able to interfere with the crime?
No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would...
How can I prove that there was an altercation in the tunnel?
The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal.
Who is the prime suspect currently?
The deceased's name is Cowell. Linny's...
How can we envisage Linny as having been unable to interfere with the crime?
It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well.
Where did the missing Halsey go?
No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So, Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. The sound we heard may have come from a... Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time.
Where did the missing Halsey go?
Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention.
Oh, I knew it. That's the only one I got incorrect.
No one entered or left the... It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have... No one entered or left...
This is not it, but I'm gonna choose it. Yeah, I knew it. That was not it.
It would have been tough for both people to...
Oh! Position to easily modify the equipment. Wait, the voice in the vent. He got Kawa all the means to commit the crime at his disposal. The strange noise could likely have been the sound of Cowell and Halsey struggling. Lenny was not in the tunnel for 1 minute. This would have given time for Cowell to bring Halsey out of the magic box in the audience stance. But according to the guard's testimony, no one entered or left the opera house. So even if he had taken her, there'd be no means of exiting. Exiting from the box would have been in full view of the audience, pretty much guaranteeing that they would be discovered.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
Where in the world did Halsey go?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff. And here I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
It just occurred to me. It's her, isn't it?
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
The reason why she ditched her clothes is because she has new clothes. That's her, dude. That's really...
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely.
He's still here.
And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Escaping from the water tank, huh?
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
Oh, it's equal now.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Hold the phone.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the deceased's name is
I'm
Cowell.
suspect, yeah. Missing Halsey, go.
The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water.
Yeah. First try.
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Oh, just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment.
Spoken like somebody who doesn't know how the trick works.
How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick.
I request that we examine Cowell's personal effects.
Must we really?
Ow, I stretched
I
it.
should think that of anyone. Your friend Lyney already knows this truth very well.
It's a pretty big cut, like right here.
Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about two completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
Yay.
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nope.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cowell.
After some time, a guard returns with news.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste.
Sure. Let me have
We
it.
discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are water from the primordial sea.
The primordial sea.
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject.
Wait, if this works on only on people who are from Fontaine, how did this work on Lynette? How does that disappearing act in the water tank actually work?
As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
Hails to the yeah.
You gotta be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order!
Oh. Wow.
It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results, but we cannot yet verify the veracity of these clues. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found. Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor.
Hey.
If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from the primordial sea.
Water from primordial sea. The liquid that guards found in Cowell's luggage seems to have the ability to dissolve Fontainians into water. Oh, I have to click it. Who's the prime suspect?
The deceased's name is Cowell.
Yes. What item did the culprit use to control the timing of the dissolution? It's the hook.
Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead some form of trick.
What item did the culprit use to dissolve Halsey?
The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box.
What item did the culprit use to hide the mechanism behind the crime? Wait, what? Used to hide the mechanism.
Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with... I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box.
Absolutely steamrolled.
It's Ace Detective Paimon's time to shine again! In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box.
The balloon?
When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel, and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Something unexpected.
That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces of evidence.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person?
Yes.
What a humiliation.
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to the situation.
Well...
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that they uncovered new evidence. I shall now invite him on stage to share it with us.
Cool.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the luggage of the other people involved in this case.
So I guess I was wrong about pointing out the guard that was guarding the Lynette and Linney. Okay.
And we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Linney's personal effects.
What?
What?
That can't be.
Oh, I see. Well, how wonderfully comedic to have have your own counterattack only to come back and wound you. Does this not clear all doubt?
It does not.
My dear citizens, my loyal audience, allow me to present my reasoning and bring this performance to a swift close.
Oh shit.
Lyney did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all.